Hey there, this is the Parental Tips and Tricks, and today we are going to talk about the luxury of space. Now, recently I read a letter that came from a doctor in India who was talking about the fact that if you have the luxury of space, you can self-isolate, you can have running water, you can have space for your family, you have food in your cupboards. You know, that's a luxury because many people around the world do not have that. But I'm an inner city London girl. I grew up in central London, right in the heart of it. In inner city, it's trendy now, but when I lived there, it was simply the ghetto. And I lived in the tiniest of flats, and there were 4 people that lived in this tiny 2-bedroom flat. There was a balcony. And at a certain point we received a garden, but because we were city dwellers and flat dwellers and all sorts of other reasons, we didn't ever manage to work out how to use a garden. Long story for another time. So we had limited space, and what my mother did was to take us to parks. And in London, when I was growing up, there were a lot of parks. A lot of them have been closed, built on, changed, etc., which is really painful now. But she created space for us by taking us out. Now, I can't imagine being in that tiny space during COVID, not able to really leave consistently and having to spend, 23 out of the 24 hours in an apartment that's really tiny. So a lot of the times the tips and tricks that come for parents talk about, set up a room, set up a play area, set up a space, create this. And this tip and trick is saying that space is a luxury, and sometimes we have to think really creatively about how we make space. So here are some ideas which I hope are helpful to think of different ways you can create space when there is none. Things that we used when we were teenagers, when we were younger, that created space for us, because then there were 4 adults living in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. And if you can imagine, you're all studying, you're all trying at different levels of your development, puberty, etc., all trying to get by. And sometimes that was really very difficult. So one of the things that we did is we used cupboard space. So, if you had a wardrobe, so we were often found, one of us sitting in the wardrobe doing our studies or hiding, just taking a rest. We also used the bathroom as a room. If you have 2 toilets, that's a luxury. We didn't. So we would make sure that we used to have a real roll call. Has everyone been to the loo? And then you knew that somebody was going to go in and just sit and just meditate for like 20 minutes to get away. So we actually used the bathroom as a room, not just as the purpose it was created for. We use the table. The table, listen, one of us could be working on the table, one of us could be working under the table. Under the table is a wonderful space, especially if you have a long tablecloth that you can put so that it acts as like a room under there. If you have a bigger table, you can act as a room. We had, in my home now as an adult, we had a round table for quite some time, and it was just not working. The round table was just not working. So I switched the round table to a desk, and I put the bigger desk table as the main dining room table, which is actually a former dining table. And it's made such a difference because that space under the table has become like, it's just become an area. It's an extra room. You create immediately. If you have a 4-legged rectangle table, underneath is an extra room, and you can create so many fun things to do. So the table is a really great one. Converting beds into desks. If you have a tabletop, those tabletop fold-out desks, you can create space on your bed to make it into a desk as opposed to your bed sleeping area, especially if you need to study but you're really bad at doing that and you need something comfortable but that you're not going to sleep on, so you need to put the pillows away and you need to put up the books, and you almost kind of use your underneath as the storage space. So you slide it all out and put it on the top, and then it has a piece of, put a cardboard down, seriously, put a cardboard down underneath, stick the table on the top, and really close off the bed aspect of it. Fabulous idea. You can see that we've had to think about this, right? I grew up like this. So that's another tip that you can use. And then there are other things that you can do, like if you do have corners, and you can put up a backdrop like a curtain to separate rooms, to separate space in rooms, just to give that sense of, okay, we're going into something different. And they don't have to stay up all the time, but you can be like, okay, this week we're going to cut the room in 4, and each of you are going to have, you know, your separate moments. There's the space for watching TV, and there's a space to play, and there's a space to do this, and we're just going to rotate you through. And so those are things that we use. Space is really a luxury. Most people live now in cities. They live stacked one on top of the other. They don't have garden space. They don't have outside space. If they have a balcony, that's a blessing. Some people are scared of heights, but they still live in flats, and that can be really difficult. So even if they have a balcony, they don't use it. And there's all sorts of reasons why having space can be such a luxury. So if you don't have space, you really do have to think, how can I create a sense of space and otherness while I'm trapped in a smaller environment? What can I do to shift it up? And as I said, if you have children, they can often enjoy the more creative things of going under tables, into cupboards, you know, rearranging a cupboard and getting rid of some stuff so that you can actually just, like, you know, we've been keeping the moving boxes because we're planning on moving house. Okay, well, the moving boxes are going to go because the kids need the space in the cupboard more than I need to have moving boxes at this point, or whatever it is. And so sometimes you have to just sacrifice things in order that you kind of create space. And sometimes there aren't cupboards or spaces available, but there are tables you can go under. There are beds. If you have cardboard, you can roll out your cardboard on and make into a desk area, study area. There's, you know, curtains that you can put up to shield the child and things like that. So there are all sorts of ways of creating space in no space. The internet's full of ideas. Check them out. Be blessed. If you have the luxury of space, use it intentionally, please, because there's people that would really cry for that. So please use it intentionally. Have a good and blessed one. Bye-bye.